and welcome to Baazex weekly market update from our office here in Dubai, sunny Dubai. Last week was a very strong week in global markets, and it was a very crowded as well in politics and economics. As you may know, on last Wednesday, the government shutdown in America happened, and that's why there was no release of the U.S. job market numbers on Friday. So last Friday, U.S. non-farm payroll was supposed to be released. Unfortunately, that's not happening. Why? Because the U.S. government shutdown happened, and as you may know, when the government shutdown happens, then there will be no release of all these economic numbers. The problem is that the Federal Reserve is counting on these numbers, because the Federal Reserve considers that the U.S. job market is the most important macroeconomic data that the Fed wants to know before taking any decision to raise the rates, to cut the rates, to take any change in the monetary policy. That's not happening on Friday. However, the U.S. stock indices actually kept increasing, and we still have new record high in global stock indices in FTSE, UK, in Tokyo, in America, in Germany. So it seems that the higher risk assets have not been affected negatively by the political chaos in America. Why? I think it's mainly because the stock investors are still counting on the Federal Reserve and other central banks to cut the rates. So cutting the rates is the best scenario for high risk assets that include U.S. equities and global equities as well. And that's why you have seen that Nasdaq, Dow Jones, and S&P increased by more than 1%. FTSE increased by more than 2%, and the most aggressive volatility and increase was in Tokyo. Nikkei index increased by more than 6% after Japan has a new prime minister, and the new prime minister is one of the most supporters to dovish policy, which means that the new prime minister in Japan supports more easing, and the new prime minister wants weaker rates and to make a balance between what the government wants and what the central bank wants. So that's why we have seen that USD/JPY increased by more than 1% to 150. So now USD/JPY is trading at 150.40. So weaker yen is very good for Japanese equities, as you may know. So the weaker the yen, the higher the Japanese stocks are likely to be. So the new prime minister in Japan was the best scenario, was very positive for Japanese stocks that increased by more than 6%. But again, all global stock indices, the major global stock indices in advanced economy increased. We have seen a new record high in gold at 3,945 by more than 2% in a week. We have seen another record in silver at 48.60. Now silver is up by more than 65 in 2025, and gold is up by more than 50% in 2025. We have seen another record high in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trading at 125,000, a new record high. And Bitcoin is up by more than 35% as well in 2025. So as you can see, the higher risk assets are increasing, and there's no, there's no fear in the market. The fear index in the market was stable, and we have not seen any increase in the fear index. We don't know if this is a positive sign or not, honestly speaking. We don't know. But what we know is that the markets are still waiting for the Federal Reserve to cut the rate, to keep cutting the rates. And then we'll see how the US job market is going to respond to this kind of delay. So this is very important. And not to forget that US tariffs, President Trump tariffs are likely to have higher impact on inflation and on prices in America, which means that inflation in America is likely to stay sticky and high. This week, we will have Christine Lagarde, ECB President speech on Monday, and we have Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, Governor speech on Monday as well. On Thursday, we will have a speech for Jerome Powell. So Jerome Powell, the chairman of Federal Reserve, will have a speech on Thursday, and U.S. initial jobs claims on Thursday as well. Wednesday, we'll have a very important economic numbers from New Zealand. The central bank of New Zealand is likely to cut the rate from 3% to 2.75. So if the Central Bank of New Zealand cuts the rate, then this is again going to be positive for New Zealand stocks and the New Zealand equities. So as you may know, we are still waiting for the US job numbers that's supposed to be released on Friday and have not been released yet. So we'll see how the unemployment in America in America going higher or lower. This is very important. And I think the longer the shutdown will stay, the higher the risks are likely to be on the US equities later. As I say, now we have not seen such a high risk in the market, but I think we have to be prepared. Because if we start seeing that there's a real and there's a considerable weakness in America, and then this is another story. And then the sentiments may start changing quickly. Don't forget that market sentiments are very, very easy to change. And it could be changed immediately in a few hours, from bullish to bearish, from buying to selling. This is very important, so keep it in your mind. So, on Baazex platform, you can keep watching us and following us as well for more market updates, trades, and trading tactics as well. Thank you very much.